The greatest block perhaps that you have is that you already know everything that is needed to know in order to transform your life. And has any sort of shift happened? Has there been any experience of transformation with you or for you, or anything that you notice? Any huge happening in your life?
Not huge, not a huge thing. I just, small things.
I know of some adjustments that you made based on your assessment of me, or that there might be somebody that knows something you don't know.
Yes. Yes, that had, so there has been small shifts, but no big, huge transformation. And so that's the know-it-all. And is that also the same
That's
thing
the
as the
know-it-all
controlling?
right there, yeah. You see, when you got finished there, you said, so that's the know-it-all. Says who?
Well, there was kind of like a little questioning.
Well, all right, now, when is there going to not be kind of like a question and an actual question?
Is that the know-it-all?
Is that the know-it-all? What is the difference there? You said the first one is a statement of fact.
I thought I knew the answer.
Yeah, and the other one is that the
actual
know-it-all?
question.
Now, the other problem with that is, in a certain sense, I just corrected you. Or not in a certain sense, I actually did correct you. So from the place of correction, is that a question then? If I questioned you, if I corrected you to make sure that it was a question, is it a question from you then?
No.
No, because you didn't verbally. So if there's anything that I perhaps don't say enough of and I don't talk enough about with people, is the value and the importance of linguistics, of speaking. It's both our greatest detriment and our greatest creation. Just consider where the planet would be without linguistics, without the ability to speak with one another. So it's the greatest discovery, if you will, or the greatest thing we as human beings have invented, I say, or created. And also, at the same time, as with everything that's that way, it's equally and also our greatest nemesis, because the invention of it is the being stuck in it. Now we are stuck in it. So if in that particular instance, when I corrected you, if you will, from saying that's my problem to saying, well, is that my problem? A very effective way for you to have handled that would have been, yes, yeah, I see that now. You took me all the way from making a statement, I did, yes, to having a question, and I did that, yes. Now this is supposedly something that you would have said that would have made a difference there. So now let me pose this question from myself. Is that where I'm missing it? Do you see the tininess of what I'm doing?
Yes.
It's very difficult to do what I just did.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Yes, and I don't know if I
took the question away from you, then I gave you the question back, then I took it away from you again and said, now ask the question. Do you see? Mm-hmm. The reason for the importance of that is because I took you all the way back to the place where it's an actual question, rather than leaving you at the place where I corrected you. So you see, if you ask a question from a place of being corrected, then that's not your question, is it?
Right, I was just giving you what
just
you were
agreeing with me and say, yeah, okay. But if you take what I've said, you say, oh yeah, and you move back from that, and then you say, okay, now allow me to ask that question again, or allow me to ask a new question. Then you have taken it for yourself to a new question. But now that takes a sharp mind, or it takes someone willing to be inquisitive and willing to find out something. Find it out, not learn it, not so that the next time you talk, you might not be made to look bad.
Well, that's where I started with saying that I'm not president. I don't have that sharp mind. I have a dull, lazy mind.
Okay, so one of the things that causes a dull, lazy mind is needing to be considered smart, So with you, what's missing is you're not willing to look the fool. You're willing to say that you are. You see the difference? But to actually look the fool means to ask a question for which you don't have an answer. And not necessarily a general question like, why am I not transformed? Because that's, in order to
I don't have the answer
yeah,
to.
that,
I don't have the answer
in
to
order for that
one.
one, I'd have to say, well, you know, because you're on and on and on. I don't know the answer to that. But I can perhaps answer specific questions. And here's the other part of it, Donna. If you go into it enough to begin asking specific questions, then what might you have after asking the specific question? The exact thing you just said you don't have.
A sharp mind.
A sharp mind, because a sharp mind would ask specific questions. Remember I said to Brian I wanted him to come and build a deck and to actually work with me so I could watch him move, so I could see if he really intends to have a thinner body, because it's going to take, if he does, not only the cutting back on food, it's going to take a lot of movement and exercise, and in a certain sense that sharpens the body, does the exercise. Well, sharpens the body does specific questions, because what do you have to do to have a specific question?
A sharp mind.
You have to be specific with yourself.
Okay.
Don't jump too far ahead. You have to be very specific with yourself, which means that you need to do some of the work, or quite a bit of the work yourself. What does that mean, to do some of the work or quite a bit of the work yourself?
That I have to do the work. That I
Yeah,
have
to
have
look at
work.
yourself and be brutal, in a certain sense, be brutal with yourself.
Mhm.
Not just, okay, I'm fat, like that. Because for some people to admit that they're fat is a large step. However, if you get used to it and that's just who you are, just fat, then what good is it to admit it?
Well, I see that maybe I'm mistaken, but I can be brutal with myself. I just go into feeling with it and then feel bad.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I am brutal,
It's
but
almost-
then I go into this,
yeah.
oh, I'm this terrible,
It's almost,
awful
you've seen the Muslim
person,
people, they
and,
take this whip
yeah,
thing and
so
they whip
it's,
them back,
you
and
know, yeah.
that's just flagellation. It does no good. But it's very difficult.
Yeah.
See, it's the opposite of what Marilyn has a lot of problem with seeing something and then become sad about it.
Right, I have that.
You see something and have a shame about it, which is kind of the
Yeah.
same. But I mean, you recognize something, but the true clarity of seeing does not include shame or pride, sadness or happiness. That does not mean to say that it's not there. In other words, if you say that you are something and then you look at that after you say it, you look at it and you say, well, I'm kind of proud of that. Even fat, you can actually come to a place where you're proud of being fat because you want to keep eating and it's easier to do. So you can even listen to people in their voice. Some people will say I'm fat and gosh, they're almost crying and they're ready to shed pounds by the millions. Other people say I'm fat and it sounds like, well, that's their whole life and that's the way they're going to be.